I've decided today that I will actually do the wood for the shelf on the bottom of my new bench. And so today I'm just going to walk through how to actually get a decent cut. I actually haven't tried this technique before, so this is going to be interesting. I don't claim to get it all right, but stay on board for the ride and we'll see how we go. So what we aim to do is to put in a shelf down the bottom here. I'm going to be using the offcuts of the plywood that came with it. So the one straight length that you see there, that is the same length as the table. That is going to sit at the front on what we call the presentation side. And then what I'm going to be doing today now is cutting up the other offcut. But what I'm mucking around with today for the very first time is to use the good piece of wood as my runner gauge. So what I did was I worked out the edge of my circular saw. Here is 95, and so then what I did was came down and I set 95 for this piece of wood as my runner, and then I've clamped it off at both ends. And so as I run my circular saw along here, hopefully I'm going to get a clean cut. Now there is a little bit of damage to the wood there. I can't really help that, but maybe I'll be able to flip that over, or after the cut you won't see it quite so much. So as suspected, it has sort of floured it up a little bit, but it's not as bad on the actual piece. Well, no, I'm going to use both pieces, but I should be able to just sand that back and put it on the underside. We'll see how we go. That's the dog chiming in. That's the dog's approval, or maybe unapproval. So I find the best thing to do is, once I've got one piece of wood, the width correct, is just to use that as a template and measure out the other one, laying it over the top, so that way I don't make a mistake with the tape measure. It's come up okay. As I say, it'll probably sand down. So I'm going to run another line, and then I'm going to set up again with the circular saw to see if I can repeat that process successfully. So this is the piece of wood that I'm going to use as my guide, as per before. However, I am not going to use where I've cut as the guide. I'm going to use the factory side as the guide, because I know that that's straight. Alright, one of the things that you always check, and I've actually got wrong here, is my cut is right over the top of my bench. You probably saw that happening, but that's why it's always good to make sure you check, especially if you're using the family outdoor setting as your bench. So I'll go ahead and adjust that. So here's the psychological and the aesthetic dilemma. I talked about symmetry and liking symmetry. Well, my two boards that will go end to end across the bottom are obviously longer than the bench. So do I use a full length and then trim one? So have like a 75% on one and the remainder on the other? Or do I chop them equally and do two cuts and therefore double the chance of something going wrong and ending up with nothing? So I'll give that some thought and I'll let you know the outcome. Right, I'm all set up to do my cuts. I'm going to do two, I can't help it. So I've got my 95mm set out, I've got everything clamped in place. Okay, so the cuts are done. I've now got my two pieces, and I've also got my big long one that runs the entire length. And on this one, I've done my cutouts for the legs because this is going to sit inside the frame. So this one has a cut at each end. And this is where things are important and that we don't make dopey mistakes. Because I've got two pieces here, only one cut on the corner for each one. It's easy to get distracted, go do 4 cuts and then put it in there and go, what was I doing? Now you've got a gaping hole. There is no leg. I was just checking, there's no leg in the middle of this. The legs are at each end. So they're 30mm by 30mm, so I'm going to make those recesses in the same way that I did these ones. I'm going to be using my right angle with measurements on it in order to make my cuts, markings. So I'll place it at right angle, I'll mark in 30, place it at the other side, and then mark in my 30. Do that one again, coming in 30. So you want a line, but you also want to know where 30 ends. And then do that one. Managed to pick up a splinter. Right. So there's my 30 junction there, and there's my 2 lines. So I'm going to do that on both of them. So my 2 single pieces are going to sit at the back, and then my really good single piece is going to sit at the front, again at the presentation side. It's only a 30mm cut, so I'm going to be using my trusty handsaw for this one. It's in good condition, and just getting that first cut right so that you're not running over. Again, it's a bench, and now it's actually down on the 2nd level. No one's going to see any sort of slip up, but it's always good practice. So what we see here now is we've got our one good length here at the front of the bench, presentation side, and then we've got our 2 cuts with our symmetrical cut here right in the middle, and there is a support bar underneath there if you remember, and then it goes through to the other end. So here's my 30 by 30mm cutouts. So here's the important thing, is that when you're measuring this up, always use the exterior of your frame. Don't go measuring up your timber from the inside of that to the inside of that. Otherwise you're going to be shy all the way along. But that one is probably a big mistake to make. It's usually the smaller things. So standing back, yeah, we've got a pretty complete bench now. We've got our upper and our lower. I'm really happy with that. I'm pleased that I did the bottom section. That will allow me to put more stuff there, maybe get some tubs off the ground, or put my power tools under there as well and get them up off the ground. Thanks for watching stage 2 of my bench project. Till next time, see you later.